Eventually a Vlogadome video, I think, but I'll post it at Netflix for now. Anyway, yeah, I had an idea, political idea. So, I was thinking about political parties. I was thinking about these lousy choices we get, nothing to vote for, and all that stuff. And it just occurred to me, that, obviously I can't run for president because I'm too tainted, and I'm just a lunatic and all that kind of crap, and blah blah blah. But let's say I could find somebody who was agreeable, who doesn't mind listening to people like me anyway. Wouldn't even mind a democracy where I had a vote. And that guy runs for president. And we just have an agreement, that I do the thinking, you do the talking. Something like that. So anyway, then I thought, well, just why don't you expand it to, like, say, 20 people, 20 good men. And you call it a democracy that you're electing to be president. On most issues, there'll be a vote, a discussion between those 20. They'll decide on policy, they'll write policy, they'll propose policy through the one individual who's officially president, but he's contractually obliged to respect the coalition that he's part of that got him elected and all that kind of crap. So that coalition would... obviously there'd be cases where the president has to make an immediate decision, and he can't get the console of his democracy. But not for 99% of presidential duties and signings and whatnot. He'd respect the democracy that he's part of, and you could have like a voting hierarchy. You have 10 guys that have double vote, and 10 guys who have, or 5 guys that have half votes, and then 5 guys that have 1 vote, kind of thing. So you can weight the voting a little bit. And, and then this coalition could also do all the PR work. They could do the talking head work. They could be interviewed, and they would talk about the coalition, and they could say, well, look, I'm on the left end of it, or I'm on the right end of it. I think we should do this, and I can't get the votes, blah, 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 blah. But it would be a real democracy inside the democracy. Representation inside the representation, which I find very appealing. Obviously you're still dealing with generalities and reductions of direct democracy, but it gives you another level of democracy within the democracy, a little more balance. So you're not just stuck with the ideology of one talking head and his political party and what he has sold out to. So the party would sort of be defined by this coalition in terms of its platform and all that kind of stuff in general terms. But it would still have, the elements of it would still be dynamic and changeable in terms of maybe all I have to do is change the minds of a couple of people within the coalition. And if you have a strong coalition, 20 strong Albert Einstein, Jack Kevorkian types, you're going to have a pretty powerful mind resource, as well as deliberative resource. I mean, they're going to tend to be disciplined thinkers and capable of being persuaded, changing their mind when the evidence indicates they should. So anyway, I just think it would be a doable mechanism for representing the currently unrepresented, and to create a more, that's the word I'm looking for, a less special interest driven political party, an even more diversely interested political party, because even people of the standard parties could see value in this party having less of a compromise and having a more a better mechanism in place to define policy, rather than a coalition of special interest, a coalition of voters with a special interest. I mean, obviously, to get elected, you're going to have to placate to some extent the voting populace, but I think it can be a minimum extent compromise less when you have people capable of defending why you won't compromise, or why you won't go that level of compromise. The full ownership compromise. So anyway, I think it's a good idea. Just occurred to me, so it's probably one of those ideas where I'll say later, oh, that wasn't so good. But it has a feeling like this one has legs. They've sort of talked about this in the past. Presidents would run and they'd have a very strong vice president, and they'd say things like, it's like a dual presidency, and but I think do it with an actual contract. You could put into the contract, the president has to resign if he violates the democracy, and you could also put other good things in the contract, like if any member of the coalition of 20, breaks any social interest law or something, beyond stealing, something higher than stealing pens or something, that they, go to trial for the death penalty for treason or something. We could definitely stake for our honor, as part of the contract written that, this is what a judge is allowed to impose as a penalty. Essentially, contract to increase the penalties for corruption unilaterally, which is a perfectly legal thing to do by contract. So you could essentially contract to have a death penalty for any kind of graft or theft or deception or manipulations. So you'd end up with really honorable, decent human beings that would be willing to be part of this coalition. Yeah, I really like it. So many little mechanisms. You could just play out the whole kind of democracy inside the democracy and create all these kinds of checks and balances even within this little tiny democracy of 20. And you could show people how democracy should work. It could be a good demonstration. Not only give us good policy, but give us a view of how the greater democracy could be improved. Yeah, I'm liking it. So we need a party name, the Ethelists. I don't think that's going to sell, but I'd almost say that, if I had nothing else to run on, I'd run on the 20 or so people, identifying themselves as Ethelists. But obviously, we need something more credible in that mix. So I have to put together a better list. So maybe a list, Modern Mystic, Remy, you have to put in some diversity, of course, some of the bad guys, just to balance it out. Anyway, it'd be interesting. So anyway, I'll work on it. Get a Vlogodome page for it anyway, and such. So until next time. Maybe I'll just put it on the democracy page. Yeah, that would make sense. Okay, anyway, until next time.